Hey, what's up, folks? Just recording this video on business and also on entrepreneurship. Wow. I just watched a interview with, golly, I guess I want to say music producer or record producer Damon Dash when he was on the Breakfast Club, this radio show out of New York City. I guess that was maybe about a year ago. And the conversation got really heated, and Damon he was not upset per se. I would assert he was just attempting to get across the communication of the importance of ownership versus being an employee. And watching that interview again, and like he said towards the end, he's like, it's just frustrating. He's like, because I teach my son, how to be his own business owner and how he can have his name on the building, and how for him to have his own business or for me to be successful in business, then I can bring him into my business and I don't have to ask anybody for permission to do so. Nobody fires me if I'm the business owner. I fire myself if you want to. That's me saying that. But I think the point that he made was brilliant because it's like, I remember hearing this when I used to work at the health food store. I was talking to this one guy that came in the store one day and we were talking about money and, wealth creation and business ownership. And one of the things he talked about was the fact that one scripture in the Bible that talks about a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. I had never heard that before. And I mean, ever since had that conversation with that guy, I never forgot that. And I'm like, I'm in the financial services industry right now, studying to get my life insurance license. And, one of the things that always I get impacted by is the workshops that we do. And then when I hear, like in this one workshop we did, it was about the cost of raising a child. And, as men, it's in our nature to want to conquer, and to procreate. And at the same time, in today's society, with all of the laws and entrapments that are out there for men, you got to be really shrewd. You got to cultivate yourself. You got to grow and learn and study about law, about business, about finance, to give yourself the best possible chance of setting yourself up and the woman in your life, whether you guys make it or not, so that that child that you produced or children that you produce have the best possible chance for success. And a lot of that boils down to one or maybe two very important words: financial literacy, and really knowing how to set yourself up and set your family up so that, even after you're gone, your children have something that they can build on. And listening to the Damon Dash uh, interview, I felt the brother's passion. You know what I mean? And I think, some people kind of take it the wrong way because the exchange did get pretty heated. But his whole point was like, yo, if we want to change what shows up in our communities, then the only way we change it is by ownership. It's not by being somebody else's employee. Now, that said, if you happen to work in a profession or career that you love, I'm not trying to knock it. Do you? If you found your bliss, that in and of itself is like one of the greatest gifts you can ever get in this life. Because so many people go through their life hating their life, and I've been one of them, because they work a job that they hate and they don't feel like they have any options to do anything different. And we always have options. And especially in this day and age, we got more options than we've ever had. It's just about being able to plug into the right, situations, contacts, resources, whatever, to allow us to fulfill on our vision and what we have in mind that we want to create in the world. So if anything, it kind of goes from the space of, like, to use an analogy, back in the day, they had what, growing up in Detroit, they had channels 2, 4, 7, channel 20, and then channel 50. Golly, I just I had a flashback there. Uh, anyway, now you got what on cable, what, hundreds of channels? And it's like that with almost everything else in life, to the point where even with technology, you get all these different apps, all these different things to distract you. So yes, the options are out there, even like YouTube University is like literally, become my university. I go here for so much stuff. It's unreal. And now I'm doing my podcast on Anchor. Check me out on Anchor, Mandingo, MAN Dean, DEAN, Go, at Anchor FM. I don't have the exact link. But anyway, the whole point is like we have options now when it comes to getting our message out there and learning whatever we need to learn in order to, you know, fulfill our purpose in the world. And again, it still takes something to be able to discern which opportunities are best for us versus those which are just, you know, complete waste of time. And sometimes that's trial and error. That said, keep taking the action. Just like me shooting this video, I was confronted early on today. Some stuff didn't go well in terms of communication I had with a young lady that I'm interested in. It wasn't bad. It's like I kind of took it the wrong way, and that was just my issue. And then I got triggered, and then I started eating some stuff that I shouldn't have eaten. And then I knew that I was going to be sitting on my stomach, which it did. So I slept for a few hours, and now I'm up at like, what's this, like 3 or 4 in the morning recording this video because my body was just having to work too hard to try to break down all that food that I ate. And so it's like, well, let me be useful, or let me make good use of the time. So, and that's a better angle there. But that said, the main thing is really, and learning more about business ownership and even learning about law, learn some things about law. And I'm going to pick up a copy of Black's Law Dictionary. Actually, I'm going to do it this weekend. I've been saying I'm going to do that for the longest time. I'm going to write it down after I record this video in my budget and pick up a copy of that joint before it's too late. Because with everything that's happening in this society, the way they're locking down on people's freedoms and self-expression, and a lot of people turning a blind eye to it, just kind of burying their head in the sand, hoping that somehow everything will just get better somehow. And I hate to say it, but it's not, I mean, eventually it will. And some people are doing great. So it just depends on the individual and what they have been able to create in their life, because it's all creation. We're co-creators with the creator. So even in the midst of some of the worst times in the world, you still have people just living like they're heaven on earth. That's what I'm committed to creating for myself and the people around me. So, and a large part of what allows for that is learning about business. I just got my business name recently. I'm going to go ahead and inquire this week. That's another thing to get done, about what it's going to cost for my business name. Or excuse me, I should say, like, I think I'm going to do a C Corp and what that's going to cost. So I can go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to have everything in my company name, because it's one of the things they talk about that the wealthy do quite often is they have everything. They don't own anything. They have it all under their business name. So an example I always think of is like Ted Kennedy from the, political family, the Kennedys, when he ran off the road and that girl, Mary Jo Kopechne, got killed. That was his date or his woman at the time. And how that, I guess, as the way the story goes, their family tried to get the money from the Kennedys and they couldn't do it because it was all in a trust. And that's the way you got to be really smart about that kind of stuff, because in the times that we're in, I remember seeing a statistic some time ago where they said like 85% of the world's lawyers are in America. Now, if that doesn't tell you something about the mentality in this country, I don't know what does. People are looking to get over any way, how, shape, form, or fashion that they can without having to work for it. So when you see all of these dudes talking about these lawyers, personal injury lawyers and all of that, and I can get you a check, it's just a racket. It's just a hustle, man. So you got to find a way to protect yourself. One of the best ways to protect yourself is to learn about business. The more I learn about it, the more I learn about law, the more I'm like, man, if you don't know this stuff, like the one guy says, and I was watching this other guy in this video talking about, it's a pretty deep video talking about how every body is a corporation, which I already knew, but he goes into the whole thing about how, during the Civil War, America was bankrupt, and essentially, Britain requested the citizens of America as collateral. So that's essentially what the national debt is. and it's pretty heavy. It's pretty deep. But the main point is that when you understand business and when you understand law, or like the guy said, ignorance of the law is no excuse. To me, that's like mandatory. And I picked up a copy. I'm getting back into my reading. I picked up a copy of the Constitution and also some of the works of Thomas Paine. He was like this dude that was real tight on like the, whatever, you could say the founding fathers documents, or uh, the Bill of Rights, things like that. I just want to really get present to it, because from what I understand, a lot of that stuff has been attacked to where there's very little left that's actually respected anymore, because of the Patriot Act and how they use that as a justification to take away even more of people's rights. And so, main point of this video is to learn, whatever you can do, learn about business, get you a business set up. Home-based businesses are one of the best things you can do as a tax write-off. And how important that is to have a home-based business. Even if you work for somebody, you can have something you do on the side. Like my mom, she makes purses and, she does paintings and all that. I don't even think she was a business owner at one point, but the main thing is get yourself set up powerfully, man, for yourself and your family. Learn about these different types of life insurance policies that are out there that are going to benefit you. And there's a book that I'm going to add to one of the books I'll be getting here in the next year by Nelson Nash, the guy that created the infinite banking system. And the book is called Becoming Your Own Banker. And he goes into how the banking system is just completely corrupt, started by like the Rockefellers and the DuPonts and the JP Morgans of the world and the Carnegies, as a way to institutionalize or indoctrinate people to where they're just better slaves, as opposed to, and like the one guy said, and that's one of, you could say, his disciples, one of Nelson Nash's disciples, in their podcast, they talked about how they, why they don't talk about entrepreneurship in school. He said, because you have to finance entrepreneurship. And it was the way he broke it down. In other words, it's like when you go to school, they don't teach you about entrepreneurship. You're basically just being trained to be a worker. That's what you're there for. And so his point was, that's one of the main reasons they don't talk about entrepreneurship, is because it's like, I saw this Mimi, if I'm saying that right, on Instagram, where they talked about how you get out of school and you got, student loan debt of, let's say, 40 grand. And then you go into the bank saying you want to start a business. And then, and you asking, let's say, for a loan of not even 40 grand. It might be, I don't know, 20 grand. And they won't even approve you for the loan. Again, that's the point he was making. You have to finance entrepreneurship. And most of these banks are not really giving out money like that, and haven't been, even in good economies, not on a mass scale like that, even for people that may have, a business that really makes sense. And, they got a good, business plan and all of that, and they present it, and the bank still turns them down. That being said, persist, be determined, be intentional, even when it comes to like relationships. Is one of the other things I thought about, and I'm in this video. But when we had the workshop around the cost of raising a child, and I just found myself thinking like, yo, if more people took the time to be that much more intentional in their relationships early on, it'd be like, yo, what are we doing? Are we just friends with benefits? Are we just screwing? Or, are we looking to create a life together? We get married? Okay. Well, marriage is business. Love is business. It's all business, truth be told. Not to say that love doesn't matter. It does. Passion, intimacy, affection, all of that's relevant. And at the same time, it's business. It may not be the sexiest way to say it, but it's a buying and selling of goods. She's got something I want. I got something she wants. And typically what I have is going to be my ability to provide for her and my ability to protect for her. That's a man's primary role, protector and provider. And so, and that never changes. And granted, it might be dumbed down a little bit because of how soft society has gotten in recent decades, and then the dumbing down of the masses and that agenda and how effective that's been. But certain things instinctually never change. And it still equates to the fact that we are here to take care of each other. And when we can be intentional and saying, okay, well, we want to get married. Okay, great. Well, how much does it cost to raise a child? Okay, do the numbers. Again, it's all business. It's like this lady I was listening to, Robin O'Brien, talking about in a TED talk, because she used to work for a major food company, and how one of her children got deathly ill and, scared the crap out of her. And she's like, so what's going on? And she started connecting the dots. Long story short, it was the food that her company was making. And then, what she goes on to say is that most of these food companies don't look at anything but numbers. All they're looking, like even investors, like if you look at Shark Tank, if Damon John or Mark Cuban or Mr. Wonderful on there, typically their main concern is, how am I going to get my money back? And what are your margins on the product that you're producing or the business that you run? And if the margins make sense, just looking at straight numbers, looking at straight return on investment, okay, I'll take that deal. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with ethics. It has nothing to do with morality. It's just straight business. And like she said, when it comes to these food companies, if they can, to use an example, if they can go from refined white sugar, which costs, $2 to produce or put into a product, versus having something that was created in a laboratory, some neurotoxin sweetener like aspartame, that's only 25 cents to put in that same product. From a purely business point of view, it makes perfect sense to put the aspartame in that product. Never mind the collateral damage that it's going to have in terms of the health of the people that are being affected by consuming that product. So again, it just points to the fact that it's all business. So be more intentional in terms of, who you share yourself with and who you choose to create your life with. And I think a lot of the heartache and headache that people experience could be significantly minimized. And there's this one dude, Brother Polite, who's polygynous. He has 4 wives, and he talked about that. And I love what the brother shares, because he talks about how a lot of times people take it where, because he has 4 wives, like he has a bunch of sex. He's like, I actually have less sex than most monogamous men, and a lot of times it's coming from the venue of, or that's one aspect of it. But the point I was getting to is he talked about how there's like a tier system to how you build a relationship, so to speak. And if you do it right, you really do help to minimize, whether you have a monogamous relationship or a polygynous relationship. I would assert, if more people implemented these principles that he talked about in that video, then I think a lot of heartache could be avoided. He talked about the importance of starting off with friendship, and then from friendship, you graduate to the next level and then on to the next level. And then you really get clear on what you're creating. And then you say, okay, cool. Because it's like, if I'm in business with my wife and then I see another woman that comes along, and then, like a lot of dudes do, they'll replace the woman they built the business with some, new woman, little hot piece that comes along. Next thing you know, the woman that they built a business with, they're divorcing her, and then she's pissed off and bitter, and rightly so, because she put in so much sweat equity. She deserves a whole lot, And it's just that people don't, it's just really just about making sure that we're more business minded. That's the whole point of this video. And doing what homework needs to be done when it comes to setting ourselves up powerfully in our relationships, setting ourselves up powerfully when it comes to our health and well-being, so we can enjoy the fruits of our labor and all the time that we put into building a business. And, and then of course, the financial literacy thing, and being able to have ourselves set up so we can pass something down to the next generation, and that education as well. Because everything that I've observed points to the fact that financial literacy and understanding law, that's the other part, really important, is one of the things that will help to sustain us and help us to avoid a lot of unnecessary headaches. And I'm probably going to have a part 2 to this video for some legal stuff I ran into with the last woman I went out with. So, bottom line is, folks, take care of yourself. Get you a home-based business, and realize that you can write off a portion of what you are making, portion of your house for having a home-based business, and invest in assets, not liabilities. Like Robert Kiyosaki says, a home is a liability. Getting that Bentley is a liability unless you find an asset to pay for the liability. So like he wanted a Bentley. So he got another apartment complex, and the rent and the drawdowns that he gets from monthly rent from the people that are tenants is what he uses to pay for the Bentley. And it may not have been a Bentley, but you get the point. So all the best to you folks. Take care of yourself. Be fully invested in who you are, man, woman, teenager, whatever. Learn what there is to learn about how to create the life of your dreams, and know that it is possible. No matter what's going on in the world, we still, as long as we are blessed and fortunate enough to have our creator, God, whatever we choose to call the Most High, bless us with another day of life and our mental faculties and having the health in our body. That's bliss, and from that, if we can manage what we need to manage in terms of minimizing our stress levels and setting effective boundaries, we can create the life of our dreams. So folks, be encouraged, be well, and live your best life now, now, now.